This has well and truly been the Rugby World Cup of the upsets. Uruguay, France, Ireland, Wales twice, and now Portugal. Having lost to Uruguay 4 years earlier by just 3 points, Fiji have now, in 2023, been on the receiving end of two of the biggest upsets at this tournament. While I was the only content creator giving Wales a chance, none of us thought Portugal were going to get a big result. In the build-up, they'd lost to Australia A, beaten the USA, while they got hammered by Georgia in the Rugby Europe Championship final. This Portuguese side, however, was not the pushover counterpart of theirs from 2007. The Portuguese side took their first ever win in World Cup history through heart, intelligent tactics, and of course, a killer instinct drilled into them by Patrice Lagisquet, the head coach who once wore the 11 jersey for France in the 1987 Rugby World Cup final, got an absolutely unbelievable result to end his 4-year tenure that he can absolutely be proud of. You heard that right, guys. Fiji lost to Portugal 2 days before I recorded this video. Unbelievable stuff. So my Japan versus Argentina video is going to have to get delayed. A massive thank you to my patrons as well for your support. My name's Max and I'm the host over here at the Black Jersey for those who are first arriving to the channel. It was a massive game, unbelievably good with so much expansive rugby, and the scoreline truly did not tell the full story of this game. Before we get into today's analysis, I just want to send a few of you guys over to Rumble and over to Odyssey because Week 1 and 2 of the World Cup, a few of the videos are uploaded in that time period are only available over there due to a bit of a copyright issue that a lot of content creators have been experiencing. Now that we've made the introduction for the video, let's find out how Portugal took the win, so let's get into this. In the video I made on Fiji versus Wales that I've since been forced to delete out of my anxiety over the copyright issues, I discussed a bit of a problem with Fiji not quite dealing too well with structure in certain parts of the game. The animation you see on screen, it's a very common play in test rugby that gets utilised to give a distributor less pressure when they want to decide on a carrier, as they've got a 3-man pod in front to mask them. What you'll now see on screen is Fiji not quite timing Teti Teller's access to the ball off this 3-man pod, because of Sui simply not being in a realistic position for his arms to release a pass from, Teller is forced to drift towards the open side with the pod taking the ball into contact. Now that we can finally cut to the Portugal test, we see Fiji in a very similar shape. Botia, who is at 10 over here, normally plays centre for Castria at club level, so possibly lacks a bit of the confidence to marshal the back line, especially as he was called into the World Cup as the injury replacement for Caleb Muntz, who got ruled out. It's just his second start in the 10 jersey at test level, and he needs to be following this animation to get directly behind the pod, not in his initial position as an inside option. Standing here to take an inside pass off the pod won't be possible because of the locking duo for Portugal covering the fringes of the ruck. We can visibly see Maiana Vanua checking for a distributor in the following freeze frame, but with nobody behind himself, he's forced to take the ball in. Before we discuss the score that results from this play, I'll also show you guys the Portuguese defence structure. In this circle there are 13 Portuguese players spread out in an incredibly tightly packed defence. Although Portugal were yet to be defending inside their own 22, they've copied the All Blacks' defensive structure to remain patient in a brick wall. They aren't rushing up, they aren't stacked behind one another in a cover defence, they're simply just giving Fiji as few holes to attack through as possible, with just 2 players in the backfield rather than a third on the wing ready to dip back and help. That's why Portugal would leak plenty of metres when Fiji did bust the line, but it's also why they won a lot of turnovers. Although Tajir, the hooker, he fails to roll away at the ruck and Fiji take the 3, Fiji kind of almost develop a bit of a false confidence because the structure doesn't quite fire, and so Portugal, they remain pretty hopeful as well, setting it up to be a very interesting contest with a lot of rugby left to play. We can now see this wonderful Fijian defence taking down the Portuguese maul with Marques in a tough situation. As we cut to the wide shot, we can see that because of his pass to here, Storti, who's a winger, winger, gets put under huge pressure from the Fijian line. Botia, being on his outside rather than at first receiver, leaves Portugal without a key man to dictate the play, with ball in hand as Storti now takes the ball into contact. Botia over here though forgets to disengage before re-entering the breakdown. Although Portugal do indeed fail to score a try themselves while under advantage, the half-time score is just 3-3. I was really shocked that none of these teams had scored a try by this point, because honestly, the amount of running meters they were getting was crazy, as we'll see at the end of the video. The beautiful expansive rugby from the first half finally starts to result in tries right at the start of the second half. Portugal's kicking game in this match, by the way, was epic. As Pinto looks to drop a bomb kick like the ball we see on screen, we can identify a grand total of 13 Fijian players in the frame. I can't see the jersey numbers of them all, but I can see that all 15 Portuguese players are in frame. Because Botia and Mangala are so much further back than the other Fijian players, this gaping hole that we'll now spotlight has been opened. With Botia as a chasing option on Pinto's open side, there's a genuine chance for Portugal to gain a massive amount of meters, especially because Wallace at open side flanker and Martins at blind side flanker are over here, so we'll be on site to clean a ruck around Botia should he catch the ball on the red cross. Time to cut to the next freeze frame on 44-44 so that we can see Botia doing a beautiful job to regather the kick. What we'll also see is that Botia, because he normally plays at 12, he rushes straight in alongside Mangala. It's not his normal instinct to defuse the high ball, especially considering his 7's background. When we then see a freeze frame 4 seconds later on 44-48, this is when we now understand the reason for Pinto's kick. Before we proceed with the rest of the build up to this try, I'm going to show you guys a new animation so we can demonstrate why we currently see all of the space in a new highlighted circle. What I've got for you guys on screen is the defending team in white and the attacking team in black. Just to make that one clear, we see two different lines of defenders with a pod of forwards in front of two backfield defenders. Because of the ball being kicked by the attacking team's 15, then getting aimed towards the red cross, the two backfield defenders, they're forced to advance forward at the same time as the attacking team's chaser. As the two defenders are both coming in from the side of the pitch across the width and towards the centre, there is now space behind them for the attacking team to continue exploiting as the ruck on the red cross gets cleaned out. We finally return to the game on 44-48 to see that this exact same space behind the backfield defenders is present. We zoom in to see that Botia and Mangala have only just exited the breakdown, so we're following these arrows back to the unprotected space. Betancourt now takes the pass from Marques to engage Niasalevu, Botia and Tanguy. With plenty of space for another kick, it's now game on. Storti shows some absolutely unbelievable individual brilliance to get the opening try of the test match after his first was disallowed in the first half. What an absolute belter of a try this one was. Ravutal Mata does his best to recover the Fijian kickoff but doesn't, which allows for Rodrigo Mata to make a 15-meter break. He now captures Botia to put him in a 2-on-1 as Martins runs the support line to go with Betancourt as the ruck clearance option. Mata, as a winger though, gets a little bit too tempted to go for the step and he does so. I now want to give a huge shout out to Aroni Maui, quickly becoming one of the world's best props for his defensive work ethic. He catches up to Mata despite being a bloody prop the size of a Land Rover, and even though he misses this tackle, this gives Luke Tanguy the time to get around, use the touchline as an extra defender so that when we cut to the wide shot, access to Martins gets closed off to the players outside those in the circle with the spotlight on, of course. Although we can see Martins get a decent chance to offload to Botia, he's probably a bit far forward. Mangala picks the ball up here as it goes backwards, and he runs about 70 meters for Fiji, though I of course can't show you guys. We'll now show the wide shot to see that although Fiji has a good chance to score by going out wide, they've had trouble doing it before, so utilize the broken field to run again. To see why Fiji choose to attack the blind side, we'll head back to see Mata picking the ball up on 47-05. Storti is guarding the fringes of the ruck on the open side because he's adopted Tajir's place to close a hole between Martins and the ruck that would open as we see had Storti not moved to guard the fringes of the ruck. Tajir is still offside though, as the spotlight can now show us. Mata therefore is able to make the inside pass to Botia, who can run at the gap. Botia ends up getting held up just 2 meters from the try line before Botia becomes Fiji's hero and scores off a pick and go. Although their line-out win rate isn't that good by the end of the test, Portugal back themselves to go for a maul in the 51st minute. On 53:32, we can see the Fijian pack driving towards the Portuguese maul from the side as they've been wrapped around by the pressure up front. They do, however, recover really well to get back on side and in front of the Portuguese maul on 50:38, which leads to the maul collapsing close to the try line. However, Francisco Fernandes, he becomes the Portuguese hero, scoring a try in his final ever match of Test rugby at 38 years old. What an incredible moment for the old boy, just getting that try to keep Portugal in the game, keep the scoreline ticking over. Awesome stuff. I picked him in Team of the Week for those who haven't seen Team of the Week. Masaki Dongi, however, himself a 30-year-old veteran for Fiji, he gets a very, very similar try off the maul after he comes off the bench. Man, oh man, it's game on, but Fiji, I was really watching the game thinking they looked a lot fitter than the Portuguese. Fiji really did their best as well closing out the game. They've well and truly learned about taking the three with not a lot of time left on the scoreboard. Frank Levani, very accurate kicker, one of the best halfbacks in the world. He sent over 2 penalty goals with just minutes left of the match. Made a sensible decision to do that, especially considering it was a low scoring game. But Portugal, man, crazy stuff. They don't give up. Needing a converted try to win in the 78th minute, Wallace makes the carry into Fiji's 22, with Vincent Pinto binding to him to get him to ground and push him forward into a ruck. The breakdown work from Rodrigo Mata, who is wrapped around from the left wing, is also superb. His right hand binds to Wallace, meaning he's still in the ruck, while he wraps his arm around Yosefo Masi to pull him out of the ruck. Mata now stands offside when the ruck is formed by Pinto, who holds onto Nasila Sela to keep him held in. Subsequently, realizing that Teller is offside over here, Storti sees the gap in front. Nasila Sela, a lock, is stuck in the breakdown, while with Teller in his red spotlight, nobody is there to mark him. If Storti advances forward and gets in front of Mata, Mata will no longer be offside. Beating 2 defenders, Storti now shows some of the best sportsmanship I've seen in 2023. He gives the ball to Mata, who crosses the line not just to secure a win, but to extend his record as Portugal's highest ever try scorer at just 23 years old. This is despite Storti being in a realistic position to get the try himself. He instead, however, puts the team first, knowing his inside man will give the team an easier kick at goal. Samuel Marques steps up to slot the final shot at goal, meaning the final score is Portugal 24, Fiji 23. And before we get into the full-time stats there, I think we all got exactly what we wanted. We got one of the best upsets of the century, but we also get to see Australia exit in the pool stages, with Fiji going through to the quarterfinals. Although not a lot of people thought Wales were going to go through to the quarters, Fiji getting through was on everyone's bucket list, and it has indeed happened. Fiji were definitely in control of the game for much of it, as we can see with 54% possession and 58% territory. And man oh man, like I keep saying, the running meters from both teams absolutely insane. Over 700 for Fiji and over 500 for Portugal, with the total amount of run meters in this match getting well over 1,200. Ridiculous. Fiji definitely beat more defenders though, but Portugal made more clean breaks. So Fiji, they were far stronger than Portugal, creating a lot of those defenders beaten stats. Portugal, on the other hand, being smaller guys with a bit more strategy and behind them, the clean breaks are probably coming out for that. Portugal were really looking for the offload as well, which we see, but Fiji, being such amazing defenders, just continued to shut the offloads down over and over and over and over. In Portugal though, they were absolutely massive at the breakdowns. Nicolas Martins easily could have played there, for France, I reckon, but playing for Portugal, he's been an absolute titan, fairly won player of the match. The stats though for defence, it's a bit deceptive. I don't actually think these are genuine defensive stats for Fiji. Their defence was very, very tight. It was kind of when they were getting out to open space, that was when the missed tackles are happening, because Portugal, they always had support runners coming through, putting the Fijian backfield into the 2-on-1s. Fiji were a little bit guilty of having 2 guys in the backfield, the same as Portugal, but never really had the confidence from Botia to tend to kind of exploit the same amount of space that each team has by not really trusting a winger to drop back into the backfield and help out the 10 and the 15. The goal kicking accuracy, very good from both teams. Fiji are going to need that ahead of the playoffs, of course, in the quarterfinals with Frank Levani in at 9. The ruck success, very, very high for both teams, 95%, as you should expect in Test rugby. But the crazy thing is, though, despite Portugal finishing the match with 75% of the line-out, Fiji just dominating the line-out, it was amazing to see that confidence to send Fernandes over for that try. That was something I wouldn't have done if I was Portugal, but it paid off big time. Good on them for being like, you know what, we've got it wrong before, but we can get it right again. That's an awesome attitude. Fiji were definitely pretty dominant in the scrum, as we can see, but it was nice to see Fernandes get a scrum back on Fiji before coming off. And Fiji, one lesson I think they can probably take away from this is having better discipline. As you guys can see, it was 11 penalties plus a yellow card to give them a total of 12. They're lucky it was not really too many penalties inside their own half, because Portugal definitely could have taken more shots at goal from that, and with Owen Farrell, Marcus Smith, George Ford possibly going to face them next week, they'll definitely need to keep that in mind. With the opposition half as well, making those mistakes, making those knock-ons, giving away the penalties, that really, really kept Portugal in the game. Fiji could have scored far more points, so their A team, I hope, will do a lot better than their B team, and I hope their A team is going to beat England in the quarterfinals. Portugal, on the other hand, man, what a test I chose, because, you know, I watched the replay of every single game I couldn't see live during the World Cup, because I love rugby. You guys know me. It's why I've got this channel. It's what I do now that I can't play anymore due to concussion. What a test I chose to watch Portugal for the first time in my life. They'd only ever been to one World Cup before, in 2007, and man, incredible that I chose this one. They played with so much passion, they played with so much good strategy, and I really hope that Portugal can be there again for the 2027 Rugby World Cup, because I enjoyed their presence a lot. Thanks to Nicolas Martins for getting me lots of fantasy points as well. I want to give my patrons one last thank you, and I want to say cheers to the rest of you guys for clicking on the video, obviously watching this thing. Make sure to like this video, do subscribe to me, and comment your thoughts down below with your support for Portugal if you enjoyed today's video. You can also find me on many other platforms that are linked in the description, of course. So yes, guys, awesome victory for Portugal. I'm wishing Fiji the best for the quarterfinals, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers from Max.